Oh, yeah, exactly. You love that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Clarice Arroyo, I'm sure as most of you know, and I want to welcome you to the September 28th meeting of the Workforce Development Board. We're going to get started even though everyone hasn't arrived yet, just because we have a lot on the agenda to go through. I hope you all had a great summer and enjoyed the good weather. Today we're going to have a slightly different format for the board meeting. We're only going to have, I don't know if that's too loud. We've only scheduled 1 hour for the public session, and then we are going to transition into a closed session on a different floor to go through the local plan that we need to submit to the state pursuant to WIOA. The board staff will be holding at least one or more public meetings to go through the local plan and solicit feedback. So I'm going to start with a couple updates about board members and staff. I'm sorry I have to put my glasses on, but first of all, we want to welcome Laura Imperiale. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay. Laura was just confirmed, and she went through our orientation with board staff, I think, yesterday. So you have a basic understanding, at least, of what we do. Laura has founded and is the president of Athena Consulting Group. It is a full-service government relations, public involvement, strategic communications, and business development firm. She brings more than 20 years of public and private sector experience to government, business, advocacy, coalition building, and public policy. Her focus the last 10 years has been on providing government relations and public outreach services to public works industries, including heavy civil contractors, infrastructure engineering firms, and environmental companies here in New York City and throughout the Northeast. So please extend a warm welcome to Laura. We're really happy to have her. On a sadder note for us, probably not for Arnie, one of our long-standing board members is retiring from his job and therefore from the board. Arnold Doran has served for 9 years as a member of the New York City Workforce Development Board. That is a very long time. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but he sends his regrets. Arnie is retiring from the New York State Office of Adult Career and Continuing Educational Services, Vocational Rehabilitation, after more than 30 years of service. He served as a regional workforce development and business relations coordinator, helping connect people with disabilities to education, training, and employment opportunities. Arnie was a fierce advocate for people with disabilities, and he always encouraged greater collaboration among and across agencies. We will really miss Arnie, and even though he's not here, let's give him a in addition, Sarah Bennett, who has served on our board staff for the last 2 years as the policy and project director, has left, sadly. She moved to Denver to be with her fiance, and she's taken a position at the Denver Office of Economic Development, where she will serve as program administrator for the federal Tech Hire Grant. So on behalf of the board, I want to thank Sarah for her outstanding service and contributions to the board over the last 2 years. In her absence, we have 2 staff members from the New York City Mayor's Office of Workforce Development who will provide support to us. Christine Carella and Rose DiStefano.
Outside.
Okay, you're outside, but let's welcome them to the staff, and we really appreciate their help. Okay, so moving on, we are going to have an update on CUNY's career success progress, and John has graciously volunteered to provide that update for us.
I will be brief as well. Let me start by saying I like coming to this meeting. And 1 for the content, but 2, and not more importantly, that it gives me a chance to walk over the Brooklyn Bridge in the morning, which I almost never do, and do every time we have this meeting. just a start to throw some new board members. Everybody assumes that people know about CUNY, but I just want to take 1 minute out of the 4 or 5 just to give you a sense of this amazing university. 25 colleges and schools, 270,000 degree students, 250,000 non-credit students. Last June we issued 52,000 degrees. If you can imagine that, it's about 25% more than we had even the year before. One, because retention and graduation rates are better, and we are getting more and more students. All of those students, all 96-7% of them stay in this city, unlike some of the private schools where people go back and disperse all over the country, so they're kind of the driving force for this city. Just a couple of other data points. Some of you may have seen there's a major study put out by Stanford Professor Chetty in the past year, which looked at upward mobility at every college in the United States, public and private, and looked at whether the rate of students going from the bottom 20% of income to the top 60% of income. An incredibly important study having to do with economic mobility. CUNY has 6 of the 10 colleges in the country with regard to upward mobility, something we're very proud of. And then our student body is 42% first generation, 37% born outside the United States, 57% women, 76% from minority or underrepresented groups. We get 78% of our students from one public school system here in the city. No other system that's close to serving that one particular system. 38% of our students have family incomes of less than $20,000, which is a figure that's almost unimaginable to think about. And most of our students graduate debt-free because they are able to get financial aid. So I just want to start with that, and then now let me talk briefly about career success, career pathways. I've been at CUNY for since forever, but 45 years, maybe part of my life. This is the single best time to address issues of career success. I really believe that. We have, had focused on college completion and graduation and enrollment. And a few months ago, our chancellor went public with his strategic vision of the future for CUNY. Call it a strategic framework. I would suggest you guys, if you're interested, go to our website. It's a very compelling document, I think. And he listed 5 kind of major pillars, of which 3 have gotten the most attention. One is college readiness, our relationship with the public schools. The second is college momentum and success, and graduation goals. And he has very ambitious goals of doubling the graduation rate at our community colleges and by 10 percentage points at our senior colleges in the next 4 years. We're kind of, cheating a little bit in the community college rate because we know we have an ASAP program that is going to 25,000 students, and we know that success is unprecedented. So I think we're pretty sure we're going to get there at the community college level with 4 years is higher. But the third pillar has to do with career success, and it's really the first time in my history that it has been up at the top of the priority list, with a sense that we need to figure out, what happens to our students when they leave CUNY and to create a career pathway. I think a lot of you know we brought in Angie Cammett, who most of you don't know, Angie has been an official with the Bloomberg Administration's Small Business Services Agency, and then went on to head the nonprofit Perscolis in the Bronx as our new university dean for continuing ed and workforce, and she has come in with vision and imagination and energy. And she has begun to establish a framework for career pathways. And I'll just mention a few of the components that we're really starting to deal with. We're going to hire what we call sector navigators in 10 key sectors of the New York City economy to make it easier for employers to access talent because it's an informed curriculum, engaged with faculty, not an easy thing to do when you have 24, 25 campuses. We want to make it simpler. We're going to, from the time students are freshmen, begin to try and prepare them for the workforce in ways of affecting curriculum and giving them special kind of readiness kinds of tools. We are going to work with faculty to focus on experiential learning, dramatically expand internship opportunities, and probably most important, really reach out to business and industry, engage them in ways that we have not done before, because we think that we can compete talent-wise with any of the more prestigious colleges that exist both here and nationally. Also feeling that we're going to revamp career services as well, and having goals of placing students in, our students do get jobs, but they do not sometimes get jobs as competitive as their background and energy and passion would indicate. And one of Angie's first jobs has been to go out to the private sector and raise money to do this. A lot of the things I've been involved with over the years, you start with private money to give you a chance to do some piloting, and then you convince the state and the city to come on board, or get the city and state to put in small amounts in the beginning. ASAP's the biggest example of that in this administration. Even though the program started in the prior one, has given us $80 million to expand that program. So we've already generated a good bit of money to set up this framework, that will put us in place this year to begin to do all the kinds of things that we're trying to do next year. And then secondarily, and then I'll pause and stop. We're also interested in bringing adult students back into the university. There are 800,000, I think I may have mentioned this in the past, 800,000 adults in this city who have started college and did not finish. And we want to bring them back. And many of them are not that far from even graduation. Life got in the way. If it wasn't for academic reasons, that's another part of Angie's portfolio and what she's trying to do. We want a partner, and we are a partner with the Pathways to Prosperity initiative, working closely with Chris and Barbara on that as well. And just kind of end, and this is kind of a thumbnail sketch of what we're doing. End by saying just what I said earlier. I've been at CUNY for a very long time. We've never had the attention of a chancellor on this whole question of career success and career pathways as an equal priority to what was always our biggest priority, which is retention and graduation. So it's an exciting time. We'll be hiring a bunch of people. We just posted a position yesterday for someone to work closely with Angie on a lot of these initiatives. And if you know people, you can go to the CUNY website, you can find it. I should have brought it today, but I didn't. And so after a lot of years, I'm still excited and passionate about what we're doing. So thanks.
Thank you so much. We will move on now to get a youth update. Andre White is going to provide it. He's the Associate Commissioner at NYCD.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm excited to be here. It's a very busy and exciting summer. Myself and my team, we all survived. We had to take vacation. But that's definitely coming up in another few weeks. This summer was very successful for a lot of young people who have some component program. As you know, we serve roughly 67,000 young people across all 5 boroughs. Our providers are amazing at what they do around worksite development. They're able to develop over 11,000 job placements for young people across the city. What's interesting to me is when I speak to other folks in other cities and we talk about SYP, and they get to the New York City presentation and I start rolling out the numbers, folks are amazed at the scale and what we're able to accomplish each year. And obviously it takes a village to make sure that the young people are being exposed to meaningful summer job experiences. And I would like to acknowledge and applaud many of you guys around this table, the board in particular, many of you guys who have invested funding or developed jobs for our young people. And we look forward to continuing that partnership in 2018. Some quick facts, our budget for this summer was $126 million, a lot of money. This mayor and this administration has been very, very passionate and has made great investments in SYP. Many of you guys might not be aware, but the last year of the Bloomberg administration, the total number of slots for young people in this program is 35,000. So that's very, well, I would say pressing, but it was very difficult back then when we had to deal with a lot of pegs, right, during the Bloomberg administration. And this administration has really stepped up to the game and really funded this program at the level that it should be funded. The SYP concept paper, which I'll talk about briefly, is actually, it's been released. As you guys know, I think I spoke about this briefly at the last meeting last fall. There's a convening of stakeholders from the city council and from the administration, folks from philanthropy, from the nonprofit world, to really look at SYP in its current form, right? As you know, this program has been around since 1963. We've made a lot of changes, it's evolved. And I think it was time for us to really start looking at making some changes. There's some recommendations that were released, and DYCD, along with our partners at CYE, develop a concept paper, which is now available on our website. I encourage folks to take an opportunity to read it and provide feedback to us. I think it's important for us to figure out what's the best way to move forward with this program. The concept paper vision is very different from what folks are expecting, right? And I've been getting a lot of feedback from not only practitioners, but also folks in philanthropy around the direction that we're moving into, right? As we know, it's important that when we think about work readiness development and work readiness training, we should really think about where that should live, right? Should it only live in communities? Should it only live in schools? Should it live in nonprofits? So what this concept paper is aiming at is to ensure that young people within DOE public schools will be able to get an opportunity to get an SYP job outside of the lottery process, right? And the research shows that once young people are exposed to work, it increases their probability of moving into the workforce, increases their probability of going to college, etc. So I encourage you to, I won't get into details because it's a very complex model. So I encourage you to read it and provide feedback. We are also in the process of launching our Work, Learn, and Grow program, which is our year-round program. We intend to serve 6,500 people this year. The program start date is, we're still trying to figure out the date, sometime around November. We hope to close our program out in April. And as you guys know, it's a one-year funded program from the city council. So that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about Andre's presentation? No. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to our summer youth internship campaign, and we are going to get a summary of how we did this past summer from Reynolds. And then Reynolds and I would like to engage you guys in a conversation about how we can really challenge the board and increase our numbers for next summer. It's such an important program, and we have the largest one in the country, and we want to keep the momentum going. So let's start with Reynolds.
All right, thanks, Bruce. So just as a reminder for folks who may be hearing this for the first time, the campaign is an effort to support the city's summer youth internship programs, both last year's and summer youth program. And at the beginning of February, the board put out a goal to secure 300 internship slots in total this year, and a minimum of 8 private sector internship slots per board member. And these goals reflect increases over last year, 250 internship slots for the board and 5 per member. And also, members can participate in the campaign in one of 3 ways: employing a young person directly in the organization, connecting someone else in their networks of the program, or making a financial contribution. So overall, the board secured 647 internship slots this summer. This is a really great accomplishment, something that we're really proud of, and this is almost 10 times what the board secured just 3 summers ago. So it's really a marked increase over time. And we have 19 members who had took part this year out of a total of 26 eligible members. And we'd like to thank each organization that was able to contribute and those who made an effort that were unable to contribute this year. And particularly want to acknowledge City Foundation, who made a contribution of almost $1.2 million, which secured 408 internship slots. Turning Point Brooklyn, which secured the most slots via network outreach with a total of 68, and UPS, which hired the most people directly at 30. So taking a deeper dive into the numbers and comparing them to last year's efforts, it's clear that the financial contribution from City really made the board's increase possible. So while we want to celebrate this year's increase, we also want to look critically at how we can improve and look at the other 2 categories, direct hires and network outreach. And just can look at the numbers here. Direct hires stayed about the same from last year, and the network outreach actually dipped a little bit from last year. And so we want to take a look at what potential barriers might exist for board members and expanding their contributions in these two areas. So we actually, this effort is a part of a larger effort to get some feedback from the board. So we actually released a survey a few weeks ago to get the board's feedback on the program and the campaign as a whole. But today we're going to talk about 2 questions in particular. The first being identifying barriers that exist for organizations to expand their participation in their own organization. And so the 2 largest responses thus far have been barriers being a lack of staff capacity to supervise interns and a lack of appropriate projects for interns to work on. And you can refer to, everyone should receive a handout that also includes a little bit more information. There are some other responses as well that include some other responses. The second question regarding network barriers. The 2 top responses were, it's unclear in my organization which folks in my network would be interested, and not having time to reach out. So we want to actually also mention that we're going to have a larger conversation about this in the complete board survey at a later date. We're currently scheduled a meeting for October 13th, but that may change. But I want to also now turn it over to Maurice to continue this conversation and to see how we can support the board's efforts this year.
So I just want to say that I work at a company. I understand how hard it is to bring in interns into your company, the amount of work it takes, and it also requires a lot of different people in the company to get involved. So I know that this is an effort for most of you to bring these interns in. I also know how important it is to the city, and I think it makes the effort worth it. I also know that there are opportunities that can come up one year to the next. For example, our first year, Amy, you were able to secure a lot of spots for us because you had a pop-up shop, and that was great. I don't know if you have that every summer. I assume you don't. So there are obviously year-to-year differences. And of course, we have Citibank's very, very generous donation, and most companies don't have the kind of resources to make that sort of donation. So our goal here is to try to understand, what you guys need from us and from BYCD to help increase the numbers and make it easier for you. And I know there are a lot of challenges, but we just want to have a discussion about what those challenges are and kind of brainstorm on how we can overcome the challenges so that we can increase our goal for next summer and provide more jobs to the city's youth through internships. So the first, I think, issue that came up was lack of staff capacity to supervise interns. I'm not sure if anyone here wrote that down as a barrier for the program, but would anyone like to volunteer about what that means to them? I have an idea, but go ahead.
We want students to have meaningful experiences, right? So in order to do that, whether it be a student intern during the summer or during the year, you have to really pay attention to what they're doing, because a lot of the jobs otherwise cannot be really as successful as they are, and for busy staff, that sometimes can be thought of as a burden, as opposed to an opportunity. So how you overcome that needs some creative thinking that will give the agency or the organization a sense that in 6 or 7 weeks, actually you will gain from doing what you need to do. Because my view is if you can't supervise people, you should not take them. So I mean, that's just a summary of what are some of the aspects of the conversation. To me, I was thinking to add to an organization, or the organization has to step up. One last thing, we have a community service corps program. We work with 126 agencies, and you cannot be part of this program unless you actually seriously demonstrate in writing how you're going to supervise the interns that are coming to you. So, just some random thoughts.
Do you have any ideas about how we can help you, for example? Would training help? Could we bring in somebody to help train the people who would supervise?
Yeah, I just think it's really about commitment. I don't think it's about training. I think the idea of training is just put another layer on top of it. I think we're all mature enough to try to figure it out. And generally, if high-level people say we need to do this, it can happen, and then pay attention to detail.
Amy, I know that you also raised your hand. Did you have?
Yeah, well, I have a random thought, which is that, at least in mine, it is adding additional responsibilities to a staff member. So when I go to somebody and I say we're taking an intern, and normally in my organization, when I add responsibilities, there's a commensurate raise or something that goes with it. In this case, we had interns and people didn't get paid extra, but so one out-of-the-box sort of thing is in the training grant program we did that, there was like a payment for administrative, acknowledging that the organization has to, it's a cost to the organization to dedicate somebody's supervisory time. I don't know if that's possible with budgeting, but it's just an idea. I have to say, in terms of lack of staff capacity, I have about 100 people, and what I noticed when we first did it, it was a challenge. We took summer interns to an ice cream shop.
Yes.
This year was the first year we did Ladders for Leaders. And it's interesting because now I think I have departments wanting interns. Like, it sounds weird, but they were in our Ladders for Leaders, were in our management office. But then the back office accounting people were like, hey, why don't we get an intern? Right. So this is nothing on this other than once you get your foot in the door, like it can. And the Ladders for Leaders people we had this summer actually came up with a business plan for potentially, they finally took off my plate something to create a new business. So I don't know, I guess that's not perfectly explaining how lack of staff capacity, but
Right.
getting over that first hurdle is.
So, and just for clarification, there are 2 programs, right? Ladders for Leaders. If you take students from Ladders for Leaders, the company agrees to pay their salary for the summer. That's the program National Grid has been participating in the entire time. They've had also an incredible experience. 2 have been hired on permanently as interns because they were so valuable and provided so much to the company. And if they had the budget to hire all of them, I think they would have. So the other program is, what is it called again? It's just the Summer Youth Employment Program. The city actually pays the salary for those students. We haven't participated in that program. I think it's a much wider age range, so that was kind of the barrier for National Grid. Our students had to be older. So it actually is a free intern for the summer, which is great. And then, when you were talking about paying additional amounts for supervisors, one of the ideas that I believe Chris came up with is possibly hosting a teacher extern. So having somebody who would actually come in to supervise the interns. I don't know if that's something that would be more work or less work, but I think it's a good idea. It's something that we can consider.
So, I mean, it's an idea that the Department of Education has to give both teachers exposure in a particular industry, but they could also supervise, a small group of interns on site at a company or another employer. And so the idea is that you have that supervision. You obviously still need to have the company spend some time working out what projects they might work on, but it would be a great sort of double dip of helping a teacher gain more exposure and also helping students get a good summer experience.
I think that's actually, in my experience, what I've been talking about this past summer is things on my desk that are like ideas that need a dedicated amount of time, but everybody has to do their job, so they can 12 hours a week, so it never gets done. But exactly like doing business plan or a place that would do culinary teaching and stuff like that. If I can hand it off to somebody who's a business school teacher and supervise some interns, and it's exactly what they would be doing in real life.
I also think it would be amazing for the students to have a real teacher supervising them for the summer.
It's all under yeah.
Yes, please.
So just in terms of context, I was on Monday down in Washington with the other workforce development boards around the country, and when Andre said that this is the largest summer youth employment program in the country, we did a little bit of an analysis of other summer programs, and the New York City, there was a bubble graph of how big the programs were, and the New York City bubble was so big, and it just sort of like trounced every other city, so we had to take it off the grid because we couldn't see any other city because New York City was so big. I think it's such a point of pride for New York City to have a program this big, and certainly other cities say, my God, we shouldn't even talk about summer youth employment until we get New York City's understanding and advice about how to do it right. And so I just want you to know that this program has a lot of eyes on it across the country as the biggest program by about twice the size of Chicago, which I think is the second largest program. So just in terms of the asset that we have and what SYEP represents in the continuum of education to job and work, it's so important that this board lead the charge on getting as meaningful an internship for these young people as possible, because Andre's got 70,000 young people into that place, and it's he's got to start the next day as soon as the summer program ends. He's starting the next day on the next year, and I feel like we need to sort of understand the context in which this particular asset plays in this whole continuum of what we're trying to do by getting young people into and staying in school, getting them great work experiences, and then moving them along the continuum to a career. So I just wanted to put that context in, because sometimes we look at summer youth employment as an isolated program, and let's see what we can do with it. But in fact, it is an important program, and as the concept paper will show you, it's becoming more and more integral to our plans on this career pathway.
Thank you. We've talked a bit about barriers in your own company. I think another area that we really should touch upon is how to really tap your networks. I mean, all of us in this room have huge networks, and we know people in other large companies and small companies all across the city who would consider hosting an intern or multiple interns for the summer. And so we want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to tap those networks. And it's going to be work for all of us, but we think that is an area for real growth for next summer. And if we're going to raise our numbers, which we intend to do as a goal for the board, I think the the way to achieve that is to go to our networks and ask them to host interns too. So some of the things that came out through the survey were people were unclear which organizations would be interested, or they didn't have time to reach out to people in their networks. And so we're trying to come up with ideas to make it easier. I think on the first point, a simple way to determine whether someone in your network would be interested is just to ask. And I know a lot of people who, a lot of people in my network happen to be lawyers. I'm a lawyer. So they may not know the answer, but to encourage that person to get in touch with their HR person or whoever they need to get in touch with to determine what their company's needs are, what the schedules are, when these interns get hired, and how we can get into that, I think is an important discussion to have. The board staff came up with some ideas, but I'd love, before I throw those out, I'd love to hear from anyone here who has ideas about how to successfully tap into your network and or questions.
I just want to say that, there are different companies here, right? So not everybody is the size of Citi or National Grid. So, the strategies are going to have to be different. They have to be catered to the size of the company, right, and the staffing that they have. And I think, in terms of resources and manpower for each of the smaller companies, making it easier for them. So one suggestion that, many of us sit on boards and we've all been asked to fundraise for an event or something, and the not-for-profit or the organization that we sit on will prepare the letters, on our letterheads for us to sign and add whatever little notes we want to do, and then send them off. That would be a big help, I think, to a lot of people, rather than have to craft the letters themselves and have to go to time and energy to send them out.
So is that how you would go about doing it, through a letter?
I think that's more, I think that's more practical than trying to get on the phone and call everybody you know.
Okay, I think that's a great
I
idea.
think it's a great idea to leave an email or phone call to follow up. That would solve my problem with reaching out. If I got the letters and I committed to send to 5 people.
Okay, we can work on that. That is a very easy fix. Any other ideas? Yes.
I do everything by email. But I will say that most of my network is really small businesses that probably very legitimately. The thing is that the good news with them is that they are strapped for cash, so in that way it's very attractive. But I think the challenge I had was really understanding what were the basic requirements for being able to host interns, and then not being totally sure that the people in my network met those requirements, and then that was enough friction to just kind of put me into a tailspin that I wasn't comfortable reaching, or didn't ever get it together. So I think sort of targeting just really understanding the different situations and different size businesses, especially on the small end. That's also, I would imagine that's also the culture, right? That's if you're looking at numbers of the majority, so.
I think with respect to understanding the programs, Andre and Daphne, at least for me, have been invaluable. I mean, they've helped tremendously because I too was in that situation. I didn't know what each program entailed. They actually got on the phone with people in my company and explained it from beginning to end, which was wonderful. But I don't know, Andre, do you want to briefly discuss? I don't think there are many requirements, but.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump in and say to all the board members, as you are doing your outreach to employers, DYCD, along with Reynold and Chris at WDB, we're here for you. Even if you were to just do a soft introduction to the business, we can then take it from there and really engage and get into the details of what it takes to participate with the program. And in regards to participating, there really isn't a criteria. If you are a running business and you do have viable work opportunities for these students, then there's a way that we can work with each other. So that's for the small businesses, for the large businesses. But I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we are their biggest support system, and I don't think the expectation is you go in and you sell every single detail of the program, but if you are able to give the basics, and we have that information through our marketing materials, and one document that we do have is our FAQs for both programs, which I think is extremely valuable for all businesses. It really has some very targeted questions about the programs, and even down to timesheets and how does that work, because I know that question comes up a lot. But all to say, we're here as your support system, so it can be something as simple as you all are sending out the letters or the email, you get responses back, and then it goes straight to Reynolds and our team, and then we do that groundwork of getting on the phone and the things that you guys don't necessarily have the time to do.
I'd like to see DYC take it a step further. So a lot of the people on our networks, some will go to this easily, some will have to be twisted, their arms twisted. But I think the big mystery for most people, especially ones who don't have time, is what am I going to do with them? What projects am I going to do? And if we had something that we could attach to this letter that we're talking about that says, this company hired them and this is what they did, and this company hired them and this is what they did, it might generate some, oh yeah, well we do that, I could use an intern or use the Letters for Leaders group for that. But rather than get them, say, someone is going to call you and then you have to get into a conversation with them, you can do that as a follow-up anyway, but at least get them thinking about it before, rather than, oh, what am I going to do with this person?
Yeah, sure. No, I think that's a great idea, and we have many different success stories. And what we sometimes try to do is tailor those success stories depending on the type of business. So say if in your network you have a lot of tech companies, for example, we can tailor something where we can target and identify big and small tech companies, for example, and talk about the success stories there and kind of list out some of those companies that we work with. Sam and I in our work have noticed that when we do give those examples, it kind of brings those businesses in a little bit more.
Exactly.
And even with the actual success stories of students, that really resonates with a lot of businesses as well. When students are able to, in their own words, talk about the value of the internship experience. So I think it's all about the tailoring, and depending on which networks of businesses that you all have, we can talk about maybe focusing on specific industries and tailoring different letters or emails for some folks that would best target their own interests, and also just show each business that it's really not a burden to have folks on board. And going back to the first question, one strategy that we use a lot of times when we're talking to businesses that don't necessarily have the capacity to take on an intern is that you have a lot of junior staff or even admin staff that are looking for more work. So sometimes if you're talking to a higher up or a VP at a company, they think, oh my gosh, I don't need to take this on. But it could be someone else within the staff, an office manager, for example, that can actually supervise that intern. Just throwing that out there for the first question. But I think employer engagement and reaching out to folks isn't easy at all. And if we're able to tailor something, that could be one way to get them more engaged. So I do agree with you, taking it to that next level.
I'm going to add one more thing and then I'll shut up. But I've been chasing Daphne for years. You guys have a track record, some very notable people in the city whose first jobs were through this program. Some of our board members here were examples of that. You should be pushing that right up to the top, to say, under the last administration, we had Dennis Walcott. That was his first job, was through SYED summer program. I mean, why you're not blaring that out to the hills, I don't understand. Because one of the things also, there's certainly an element that people are afraid. They don't know what's coming down the pike. They're going to get themselves into some situation. They don't know who's going to be walking across the door. This is one way to help assuage those fears.
If I could just also say, though, in response to that, in the Ladders for Leaders program, I don't know if it's true for the other program, you are allowed to review resumes and interview and select the person that you want as an intern. So if you have a fear about who's walking in the door, if you want control over that, you can have control over those issues. And
That's offered for both programs.
both, okay.
It's not that they, you know, the control is great, but if you want to get them to take the next step, you know, if they see these success stories and they say, oh, that person is through the program, you know, it's not going to be so scary to them, and they may be willing to make the phone call or send the email.
Right, so I want to say last year we engaged Dana and John. I'm sure you guys are familiar with them, and did a PSA for us. We have tried a strategy, and unfortunately, surprisingly, there's a lot of folks who are not willing to go on record for whatever reason, whether it's on television or in the paper, or communication department is really trying to figure out a way how to better sell folks on the program. And as you know, we're going to do this new constant paper process, and one of the things that we're going to be asking the Office of Management and Budget for is additional funding around marketing. It's not a very cheap thing to do. It's $6, and you have to really justify every dollar that you're spending. But I think there's an argument to be made that, you know, as we really think about employer engagement and getting more business on board, we need to be a little more strategic with the way how we really reach out to these businesses and get folks to talk about the program, especially folks who have been a part of the program.
Go ahead.
For what it's worth, I think that approach to me seems like a good funding approach, but for the business, I think you just have to solve the problem. Like, I think you should understand and hit those points. Like, I want to know that I don't have to pay for this, and it's not going to be really cumbersome for me to take on these interns. And if you just make that really seamless for me, then it's kind of like it's like an offer you can't refuse, you know?
And I'll say, I don't want you to think that there's no work on your part. There will be a little work, but for me, in my experience, there is the effort really was around the process of getting the company to agree to participate. Once I got them to agree to participate, it all got passed off to our hiring committee. And I honestly, they worked closely with DYCD. I don't know what the process was. I don't know how many people were interviewed. So that part, it was, you know, off my plate. But there was effort involved in, I guess, pitching the idea to my company. Now, you know, if you're a company like Amy has, where it's your company, there would be less effort in the pitching part, but more effort in the hiring part. So, you know, I mean, but I think, again, I think as board members, it's a commitment that we should take on because it's so valuable to the city and important to the city. And, you know, that's my view. And I think if we increase the number of internships again next year, it would be just another valuable contribution that we're making to the city. There was one last idea. We do need to wrap up and move on, but I thought this was a good idea that Reynolds and Chris came up with, which was potentially hosting events where we had people with knowledge of the events. You could invite people from your networks to come. We could even have some interns that have participated. We had an event at National Grid this summer where we invited all of the interns who were part of the program to come, and it was a panel discussion, and it made me feel really good by the end of the presentation, and I think it's inspirational, and it might be a way to get people in your networks to participate. Some people like going to these events, some people don't, but I don't know. Do you guys think that that would be helpful? Possibly, yeah.
What you should do if you can get people to go, because business person to business person, you know, just saying, oh, everybody has the little projects on their desk that they want to hand off, to be able to say credibly to another business person, I handed it off and this intern hit it out of the park, you know, they have a full marketing plan and, you know, marketing research on what exists already, you know. I think it would be persuasive, I don't know how you get, everybody invites people. Partnering with the chambers of commerce, towns, all businesses. You know, they already have networking opportunities. And so I'm sure a lot of these businesses are looking for interns as well. If you can utilize interns, I think that's just a great venue to kind of partner with them and get the word out there.
We did that years ago. We went to Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce and we brought, I think it was CBS was on board at the time, and they had hired someone. And we put on a little presentation for them and show them, you know, here's the employer, here's the employee, each told their story, you know, to, you know, again, show what the possibilities are.
I would also recommend reaching out to the New York City Partnership, Kathy Wild, to have a discussion with her. Certainly she has an intro to many, many businesses across New York City, and maybe she'd be willing to host something as well.
Yes.
My name is George Tin. I'm with the New York City Marriott and Starwood Hotels. And I've been brainstorming this whole idea with Chris and Renaud. It looks like some of our hotels are already supporting the program financially. And the challenge is we may not be able to do the internships because of third-party issues. You know, however, I think we meet once every quarter, you know, all the New York City hotels, the general managers. So I was thinking that maybe I can invite Chris and Reynolds to come to the meeting and basically talk about the program and see how we can possibly come up with you know, some sort of funding, you know, for all the hotels combined. This way, you know, even if we can do the internships, we can at least support financially.
I think that's a great idea. We'll go ahead, Laura.
I'm sorry.
No.
One of the things that I was working on when I worked for an engineering firm was we were partnering with the school, the city school, and a teacher, and we would host the internship, and what we would do is create planning internships. So it's a learning experience, you're developing skill sets, they have to learn in the classroom, and, you know, they was pretty serious, right? So I don't know if this is something that would fall in the wheelhouse of NYC or this board, but providing learning, teaching experiences can be tremendous internships, because engineering and architecture and construction are very skilled professions, so it would be very hard to place, I think, interns and meaningful experiences inside a firm if you're creating something, a learning experience about the industries, and creating their skill sets and training them custom software that I think that's really
Okay, I think we have a lot of ideas, and I guess from here what we'll do is we have some action items. We'll definitely be preparing a letter, a draft email, things like that, and hopefully we can get this process started really early this year. I know the timing matters for a lot of people. So I think what we should probably do is send out a communication, right? Okay. Okay, so we're going to transition to the closed session now. So this will conclude the public portion. We have about an hour of time scheduled for the closed session where we will discuss the local plan. And we've never done this before, so I'm going to explain what we're going to do. I do want to say we will have, the board staff is going to host public information sessions on the local plan probably in November. So for board members, we are going to go up to the 7th floor and meet again in the SBS boardroom for the closed session. It's currently 9:32, so we're running a little late. If we could all meet up there by 9:40 so we can get started, that would be really appreciated. To members of the public, thank you for coming today, and you get some extra time in your day now. Do I have a motion to adjourn the public portion of today's meeting? Second? Okay, all in favor?